Welcome in, 11, Nick Roush and Adam Luckett here, thanks to our good friends at Monticello Bank, where we might have a special announcement today. But first, I got to tell you, 128 years of service, Monticello Bank is proud to say they go wherever the Wildcats go. Whether you're going to a pro day or you're following Will Levis, going to the NFL draft, the Go NBC mobile app lets you bank at home, on the road, and if you need to come see us at our convenient branch locations right around the corner. 21 branches in 14 different markets. It's where people matter. Our motto means competitive loans, competitive deposit rates, and a wide variety of customer-focused financial service, which makes the numbers side of your life a little bit easier. So find Monticello Bank at mbcbank.com, Monticello Bank, where people matter. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. And today we are talking all things Kentucky football. Luckett, I'm in Lexington at the KS office. It's a little weird doing this show with Stephen Peak in the same room as me. We haven't had that happen very often. But we were both at the Joe Craft Football Training Center today, and there's just a buzz there, Luckett, because not only do we have spring practice going on, but you also got all these former players coming in. Saw Benny Snell, Justin Rigg, Landon Young, and Luke Fortner are there. And then you got all the guys who are draft eligible this year. So it's a busy, exciting time over on campus right now.
Yeah, it's workout season, and obviously, like to me, Nick, spring ball really kind of starts the year for me. The football season, like it's here now. Like you have your team per se. Now it's a little different because we still have the late portal window, but we know who Kentucky's. We know who's on the roster. We know who's coaching them, and we know who everyone else has had their roster set up. So for me, this is like the start of the college football season, and it runs up through really signing day in December. So for that is exciting in itself. And then obviously, yeah, like Levis, he's the lightning bolt right now because pro day is going. It's going to be the craziest pro day that you or I have been to at Kentucky because of him. There's going to be, I would assume, multiple head coaches and general managers there. I think Bengals general manager Duke Tobin was the only GM at last year's pro day. That's going to be more than quadrupled, I would imagine, for Friday when they take the field. So, yeah, there's buzz. I think a lot of it's due to Levis. And there's buzz in general with the pro day because a lot of the guys, they'll go and watch their teammates who are participating. But it's obviously jacked up a little bit this year because of Will Levis.
There's something you said about spring ball that I want to get into, but we got plenty of time to show that out. Let's quickly start with just the pro day stuff because you have heard 90 credentialed media members that are going to be there, which means probably just as many, if not more, NFL officials. There's whispers that Pete Carroll's going to be one of those coaches that showed up, and that's a potential candidate right there for the Seattle Seahawks, who have an offensive coordinator that was with Liam Cohen at the Rams. Levis is not doing any combine stuff, although I just want to see how fast he is. It'd just be kind of fun. But 50 scripted passes, guys like Dan Key, Barry Brown, and I think this is an opportunity. This is when Levis got on people's radar last year, right? Was throwing two different people, throwing to Wan'Dale Robinson at Pro Day. I think you're going to see similar pop from guys like Brown and Key. And not only for the guys that are still on the roster, but I think it's also big for people like Keidron Smith. He didn't get an NFL Combine invite, but he was at the NFLPA game. They asked him to come to the Senior Bowl. Now he gets a chance to perform in front of a larger audience than your typical UK Pro Day.
Yeah, I think that can't hurt, right? Like if you're one of these borderline guys like Keidron Smith, probably is, maybe Jordan Wright if he found the right team, like that cannot hurt that they can get accurate. They would be there regardless, but that maybe more important people in the organizations that are there will be there. Could make a difference, right? That can't hurt.
We saw it in 2018 when Josh Allen brought a ton of people. Big George bench pressed like 700 pounds. I mean, he crushed it, right? He was awesome in there, and that's why the Giants took a flyer on him late in the 7th round. So we've seen it before. We could see it again. I'm just setting all the times and stuff aside, like you can only get so much out of it. But it'll be fun for us just to be rubbing elbows with some of the people you see on TV, right? Like that part of it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll get to see Rap Sheet and his three cell phones, maybe. Work on some scoop there. Good to see Jordan Rogers and his hair will be there. And who else? Who else is on the SEC? Is it just Jordan Rogers? Is that
just Jordan?
Because
Rogers.
I saw they were bringing Jordan Reed to some places.
So I think Rogers will be joined by like some UK people, where instead of having Dick Gabriel as kind of the host, they'll rotate some others through there. But nevertheless, it's a buzz unlike anything we've seen before for a UK Pro Day. It should be a lot of fun. Are you bringing a stopwatch, Luckett? I don't have a stopwatch anymore, and I don't know how much I can trust my iPhone tapper to get the times right. Are you prepared?
I do not have a stopwatch. I attempted the iPhone clocking last year, and it did not go too well. I believe I had Yusuf Corker running a 3.8. And then I believe I had Marquand McCall running like a 4.5. So
yeah, well, you know what?
Things weren't going great.
Trust our numbers because we're going to goose the hell out of them.
Yeah. Because it's on the iPhone, it's hard because you can't, like, as soon as you touch it, it starts, right? So we're on
you
a
can't
stop
have your
clock.
Finger on the trigger and just
yeah. So you're just like sitting here like. And then if you miss, you're like, well, all that work for nothing. Like there was a few times where I hit it at the beginning and then I missed it on the end. So it's just like
stop. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's you don't have a great angle in there. So you don't like knowing when they start and then knowing when they finish, because we don't have the bleacher like the scouts do. We're just kind of crammed in there. And it's not just like there's players from other schools there too, Nick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like let's just say like a center or a smaller school like that, like those guys they had a few of those last year. Yeah, or wherever. So it won't just be Kentucky guys there. And it's a lot of obviously it's a big, a lot of families are there. And it's a big moment for them. And we're kind of just
Capilouto was there
walking around.
Just getting fired up. I'm curious too if any of the will Justin Rigg run around and try to catch passes. Lynn Bowden. Those are guys on those reserve contracts where they're just basically on a practice squad. Like a team's got dibs on them for a practice squad. But will any of them try to compete? I don't know what the rules are on that, but
there's a narrative in the draft community that with Levis, his supporting cast was bad. I think that's a little unfair. They were just young. So Barry and Brown and Dane Key are running routes. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some buzz oh, who's that? Maybe get that guy on my radar. Because I do think that's a little unfair with the Levis or it's not necessarily criticizing Levis, it's criticizing the offense, I would say. But
yeah.
They were young, but it's not like he wasn't throwing to a bunch of bombs.
Yeah, they're using to prop up
Levis. This wasn't a Josh Allen, Wyoming situation where he literally was throwing to guys who were bottom of the ladder, like Mountain West receivers. I mean, these are legitimate guys that could have played anywhere in the conference. They were just young. So seeing maybe that I could see that those guys, if they come out and just seeing those guys run, specifically Berrien with his just raw athleticism and speed. I think that could definitely catch some people's attention.
Levis did say, he can only see what he sees. He can't pay a ton of attention to what people are saying about him, but he did say he gets a little irritated when they kind of put down his accuracy. So, now he gets a chance to throw to guys who he's a little bit more comfortable with. So it should be an enlightening Friday morning. A lot of hubbub. The event starts at 10 a.m., but the stream on the SEC network with Jordan Rogers will be at 11:30. That's when things will get, they kind of start the day with measurements and jumping and all that sort of stuff. But the drills, the throwing. That'll be around 11:30. So turn on the SEC Network at 11:30 to be able to watch all that action.
And NFL Network also has it behind their paywall.
Yeah,
NFL
Plus, right.
And I think they might be running a little longer than the SEC. So it's Rap Sheet, and then David Carr, Derek Carr's brother.
Did I see Jenny Slater? Who's the Cowboys reporter?
I thought it was Stacey Dales, but I could be wrong.
Oh, you know what? It might be Stacey Dales, right? Which, gosh, she was doing all of the heavy lifting for them at the combine.
Oh yeah. She was at every media session where they sent us little print guys. She was there asking all the questions for her broadcast. So yeah, she was working day, and then you would see her on TV at night. So long days.
Right. Putting in the hard work. The Kentucky football team, though, they are putting in the hard work at the practice facility. Today was spring practice number 5. We got to speak with Brad White and members of the defense. And now's also a good time for us to talk about what we saw on Tuesday. But I'm going to start by just saying that all aboard the Zion Childress hype train, because I'll be the conductor. I'm buying stocks in Zion Childress. Brad White said today, you talk about all these kind of – it's what you mentioned off the top, where it's the start of something new, and you're bringing – like, this is the first time you have this new team. So De'Aaron Jackson and Trevin Wallace, they're now sitting in the seats that were held by Square and Jacquez Jones for so long. Brad White singled out Zion Childress as a guy in that secondary that's really stepped up, that's taken a more vocal role. And as Childress put it, he's like, this is natural. I was a quarterback, this is just, it's kind of what I've always done. And you back that up with the play he had towards the end of last season. I can really see him becoming a breakout star for this Kentucky defense that I don't want to say they need, but a nice surprise that we didn't expect from the transfer portal.
Yeah, I think that was a big hit, Childress, because you lose Jalen Geiger early in the year, and having him come in and kind of not necessarily be a starter, but be like that third guy behind Afari and Luckett, I think was huge. Like, they really needed that, and he was really good for them. So now Geiger's still recovering from that knee injury, and he's a big part of the defense, and I think they trust him. I think he's dependable in zone coverage. He's going to do his job, and he showed flashes of being a really good tackler, I think, for the most part last year. And he's got position flexibility. Like, he played nickel his first year at Texas State. Kentucky's 2 safety spots are at some points interchangeable, so he can do some deep stuff and then also play in the box a little bit. And so I think he's going to be a really important part of this defense. And I think you look at that safety position, you feel good about 3 guys: Luckett, Childress, Geiger. How do you distribute snaps there, get them on the field? And then you get the Vito Tisdale news. That may be a way to do it. Like, you could play one of them a nickel and get them 3 on the field a lot together. But regardless, you're going to have a rotation there. Like, they're going to be kind of 3. They're all going to get the same amount of snaps, I would imagine. They're going to be able to stay somewhat fresh throughout the season. And so they're in a good spot there. I think overall the defense, Nick, I think the team building has been really good on that side of the ball. Like, you just look at this roster, and they just got depth really everywhere except the linebacker spot. But at the linebacker spot, I think you got 2 guys that could turn into like real deal tier A stars this year in Trevin Wallace and JJ Weaver if it comes together. So you don't have depth, but you have some star power there. But you got some talented young pieces at outside linebacker, and inside linebacker is a worry, I would say. But other than that, like, I think the team building here has been good. And it's a combination of the old-fashioned recruit and develop model and filling holes with transfers. Childress falls into that latter area. So I think they've just done a good job. And like, my big takeaway from watching the practice was just that, like, I feel really good about where the defense is. Like, I feel very solid that they're going to be good this year. And this year, I really feel that they have star power at all 3 levels. And I think that if that hits and that comes together, that can make a really big difference.
you you mentioned Vito Tisdale, and that in a normal, like it was a big deal when they lost him a year ago to injury because you expected him to become a star. And now it's, I know he's a 4-star recruit. He's from the state of Kentucky. You'd like to see that guy have his time to shine because he was so explosive in the small doses that we saw him. But there's guys ready, right? Like they spent a whole year. The roster's ready for this. There shouldn't be losing Vito Tisdale does not have this coaching staff in a scramble. But I do think you can't replicate the Vito's pop, that sort of those plays that gets the crowd on their feet that only Vito could do. You also I like having one of those kind of loose cannons, right? You can't have a bunch of them like it. But when you got one or two of them, not only does it make things fun, but I think people can really feed off of it, and it could potentially lead to some momentum swinging stuff, both for the good and the bad. Like a few years ago, you had Stenberg on the offensive line just being nasty. Like that was what Tisdale seemingly brought to the table that you are missing. So while in other years I might be worried, now, I mean, he was going to have to legitimately fight to get onto the field after that knee injury. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, I don't think people are surprised that Vito probably got in too much trouble and is off the team. But it is disappointing, and we do wish him the best moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's pros and cons. You do, like, there is an element of big play factor that he could deliver, like game tilting play, like against Louisville, like that tackle on Malik Cunningham ended the game. Like the game was over as soon as he made that tackle. It started a little scuffle there. But there's also some, like with Vito, there was recklessness in coverage. Like, getting lost or not getting lined up. Look at the Tennessee game from 2021 as well. So there was all of that, I think, kind of morphed together. But like I've gone back to, I think it's important to realize they have depth, but the depth has been hurt at the same time, right? Like we enter this year thinking, oh, wow, they're going to be really deep in the secondary. Carrington Valentine will be back as a senior. Kobe Albert is a guy they really loved as a recruit, could play multiple positions at safety. He might be the future there at safety. Taj Dotson is a veteran who'll be a redshirt senior that they could use in multiple areas. Vito Tisdale is kind of this heat-seeking missile that they could use at nickel in certain situations. Well, all four of those guys are gone now. Like really unexpectedly. Like we left the Louisville game, Nick, when Kentucky beat Louisville, we thought all four of those guys would be on the team next year. And they're not. For all for different reasons. And so what does that look like? Like I look at the roster, they only have 6 scholarship safeties now. So if they get an injury or two, they could be in a jam there. I think in a weird way, it puts more pressure. I still think they're fine at safety, but I think it puts more pressure on their cornerbacks. Because what happens if Andrew Phillips has to play a lot of nickel? Then you're starting 2 new corners on the outside. I think one of them is going to be J.Q. Hardaway. It sounds like Maxwell Hairston is doing some good things in spring ball. Are they ready? Are both those guys ready to come in and play winning football for you? That's a huge question. And so, like, they do have some built-in answers, but I do think the depth is taking a hit here. I still think they're in pretty good shape, but they're not. They're a couple injuries away from maybe being in a rough spot.
White said that Hairston's probably gotten his hands on more balls than anybody during this spring practice so far. But with those big plays, he's also made those young mistakes because he hasn't played a ton of football.
And White's also said, like, we're going to play man sometimes, but we are who we are. Like, we're going to drop back. We're going to clog zones. We're going to play our identity.
Mm-hmm.
So for Hairston, he's just a smaller corner. So, like, what does that look like to me? That does. How does he fit into this? Where like Hardaway just sticks out to me like an obvious fit.
Yeah,
like I have a hard time seeing him not being a starting cornerback for them this year, just because of his physical traits. I mean, he's 6'2", 200 plus pounds, really long arms, can run like that. It's like they made like if Kentucky was going to build a cornerback in a lab, that's what he would come out looking like. Is JQ Hardaway. So it's hard for me to see him not being a starter for this team.
When we got to go to practice, one of the big plays by the defense was kind of hiding and then jumping a passing lane and picking off Devin Leary. So that part's encouraging. We also got an awesome interception from Fearbry that when you talk about kind of overcompensating for the play at cornerback, but the inside guys can come out. I didn't think that he could make that play. You know, he was just in the flat and jumped a hitch route. Made a great diving catch. The progress of those backup outside linebackers, it doesn't draw a ton of headlines because we don't know how much they'll play. But between Fearbry Wade and Noah Matthews, like they should get quite a bit of run this spring. How much you want to see from JJ Weaver? You know what I mean? So
yeah, you know what you got there.
Exactly. I'm not completely switching gears, but Childress today said, you know, it's like, you're a quarterback. So what is Devin Leary like as a quarterback? And he was just like talking about boys at home. He's like Drew Brees with his accuracy. And that was something from practice that you could not help but notice. Just the ball placement where you almost take it for granted how good it is because that comeback route that he threw to Barryon Brown, I mean, just right over top of the corner. The safety didn't have enough time. You just plays that you can't. It's a hard throw to make, and especially where that would be the kind of throw that Levis would struggle with. They're putting enough touch to get it over that first level, but sneak underneath the second level. There was a dig route that Childress pointed out to Dane Key where the safety knew it was coming. He jumped it, but there was just nothing he could do about it. That's why we're going to have those takes like it about Leary being a better college quarterback than Will Levis because of the accuracy in hitting the layups that you so often talk about that Levis has struggled with.
Yeah, to me, like the story with Leary, like that's what I just expected. Like what I saw in practice is what I've seen on tape with him, watching him at NC State. Accurate quarterback, all three levels. He's got the look of kind of a middle infielder with how he kind of rotates his hips and throws the ball. It opens up and throws it and gets it out quick release a lot of times. But he does have a little bit of a windup at times too. But he can. We saw like the sidearm, like for him getting out real fast, Nick, and we also saw him kind of layer it like you're talking about, and then push it down the field a little bit, and push it down the field on the go ball, which he's talked about. It's his favorite throw. But it's all like for him, it's just about health. Like to me, it's all about protection and him staying healthy. Yeah. If he does that, he's going to have a good year, and they're going to have a good year on offense. I mean, that's the whole season in a nutshell to me. Like we can sit here and talk about fit and what he throws like and this and that.
We got to talk. It's a long season, off season though. Like we got to talk about it.
I mean, I hear you. I hear it on that, but they've got like, if you believe in Cohen, like you believe they got a good play caller. We know they got weapons at receiver, tight end. You know, to me, it's just like he looked like you expected him to look. To me.
Yeah.
He's shorter than you think he is.
Yes.
I mean, everyone that I've talked to that's met him, that's the first thing they say. Is that he's smaller than I thought he would be. But
he's not Nick Scalzo out there. But, I mean, you're used to seeing Will Levis.
Yes.
Jacquez Jones dropped that line today. He's like, man, I thought he was a linebacker. You know, which, by the way, just going to miss Jacquez Jones. That guy's hilarious. When we get that conversation up on the KSR YouTube later, you got to. The dude's just funny. I bet he's a good hang. Right? Like, Luckett, I don't know if he's – well, I mean, he's an Alabama guy. He might smash Bud Lights, you know. Like he'd be fun to belly up to at the bar.
Yeah.
And which, by the way, the post Jeff Ruby's is going to be a fun place Friday night with all these people in town.
Oh yeah, or probably Thursday night.
Well, but the players though they'll use it as like a celebration sort of deal. So either way, if I know it's NCAA tournament time and you should be drinking beers downstairs at KS Bar, but if you want to, you know, maybe venture out a little bit, I have a feeling Ruby's will be popping.
Yeah.
But
Scott Gregory here. Scott Gregory has a good. We're talking about Larry. He's got a good question in here in the chat. How many matchups next year will UK not have the best QB? There's not one that immediately stands out that the other team has a better quarterback.
Yeah, because there's so much uncertainty with all the other places. Like, I mean, what's Will Rogers going to do with this new administration?
The consensus in the SEC, the consensus in the SEC is it's going to be like Jaden Daniels or KJ Jefferson is going to be first team, and then the other one's going to be second team, and then who's going to be the third team? Like, I think Leary's going to get votes there in July. I could potentially see him. We could walk away from that event and him be like the third team quarterback.
I mean, South Carolina and Mississippi State right now are the only ones that have starters, and I guess Louisville does with that dude from California that stunk.
Yeah,
but
I think the best way to do
competitions,
the best way to do this would just be to tier them. I think Leary's definitely in tier A of that group. If you threw those 13 quarterbacks, whoever starting at those places, in a pot and you just tiered them, he's definitely in that top group.
So I appreciate Adam Rittenberger's like the ESPN Big Ten reporter. He gets some scoops, but he did like a top 25 best quarterback rooms in the country, and it was just a hilarious ranking. Like, it amused me. It's like you're putting Mississippi State in there because they ran the air raid with some guy, and now they're not running the air raid. What is that? You know, there was some.
Yeah, I don't know. Those are hard. That I know you're talking. That list is more so like just put the 25 teams that recruit the quarterback the best. I mean, that's essentially what you're doing there.
Exactly, and then
maybe throw in Dave Claus in because Wake Forest always has quarterbacks always put up numbers.
Which we're getting off track here, but I don't care because I had to read Ari Wasserman just slurp freaking Colorado and Danny O'Neill. So Danny O'Neill was Rich's. He was the guy that Rich liked at quarterback, right? Cathedral guy. Who is a middle 3-star, mid to high level 3-star. He's your most average quarterback commitment that you could get. Nobody.
He's about 100 spots lower than Bo Allen, or right in that kind of tier. I would say.
I was not looking forward to having to talk myself into Danny O'Neill, and we've got national guys for the Athletic writing 800 words about Deion Sanders, Coach Prime's handpicked quarterback of the future. That dude ain't going to play it down at Colorado unless somebody gets hurt. They're going to get somebody from the portal. Like he's not going to play, and it drove me nuts, right? Like it's very unrelated to anything. Like, come on, give me a freaking break. Coach Prime stuff. We need to chill on Coach Prime because they might not make a bowl next year. They're going to be bad. I mean, where are they? I don't know. But I just was sick of it. I was reading that. I was just. Fuming. My earbuds are about to pop out with the steam rolling out of them right now. It was stupid.
They're just a lightning rod, and he's a needle right now. Like he's a content king.
Coach
so people are going to write him.
I get it. It's March, and you're a football writer, and while basketball is happening. But give me a freaking break, Ari. Gosh. I digress.
The whole Colorado stuff in general, though, they are just. It's pretty crazy. Like. How he hasn't coached the game really for them, and they have become like this and the talk around them is like, can they turn them into a national championship contender? Like that's the
it's like, dude, go to a bowl game.
I'm just like, whoa, let's like Colorado, let's go to like a couple bowl games in a row. Number one, but that's the Deion bump you get when you hire someone like that. So. They're definitely leaning into it, but the coverage of it's even been more than I anticipated from a national kind of lens. The coverage
you have to talk about them along with the teams that actually go to the playoffs, which is just wild to me that it's been that quick. But you know what?
And I think Kurt Herbstreit has talked about this. He's like, we're going to actually like talk about Colorado on game day a lot, and we never talked about them before. Right. So like this week, every week on game day, that's going to be a topic. Either crazy. One, previewing who they're playing, two, talking about how good they're doing, or three, talking about how bad they're doing. Right, I mean, he is very much one of the bigger figures. Like, if you're going to rank the figures in college football, he's in the top 10 right now. There's no doubt about it. So he's a lightning rod, like I said. There's going to be takes on him one way or the other.
Yep. Right now, it's all they're in the honeymoon phase. Everything's good, even when you just get a middle of the road quarterback to commit. Kentucky has had quite a few touted prospects come through campus. Brian Robinson recently was the biggest fish as of late, but they've got a ton rolling through. You see some of the current guys that are committed showing up. Taylor Master was there today. Jacob Dixon was there earlier this week. So the recruiting is picking up as well this time of year. As you start to narrow your board a little bit going into the 2024 recruiting cycle. So that's something we'll be keeping an eye on. And if you aren't on KSR Plus just yet, highly recommend it because Jacob Polachek's talking to a lot of these guys after they come to campus. While we're getting you the reports, he's talking to just some of the other young kids that were there. So, and the message board, it's really popping right now. Off season, a great time for a message board, Luckett. It's the best time, some might say.
Yeah, the conversation is flowing. One could say on there.
Definitely.
So yeah, just give us a chance if you haven't already. $10 through up to August 31st, I guess. So get you right up to football season. So just instead of buying us a beer, you can just buy KSR Plus membership. Yeah, please.
Which,
so that would be
of, you also
awesome.
So the tentative plan, we're hitting the road. We do this show remotely, but we are planning on doing a show next Wednesday at Monticello Bank in Louisville, their London location. Not finalized, should know Friday. We'll have more details out on the site, but shooting for a little Wednesday lunch with 11 personnel at Monticello Bank. So once we get all the details ironed out, we'll be sharing them publicly. But hope that some of our loyal listeners and viewers will be able to come hang for a little bit, talk ball as we get you ready for what will be next Saturday, which is kind of I'm kind of calling it a fan day, Luckett, because it's not a spring game, but it's going to feel like a fan day with an open practice, inviting the fans out there to come see what they've been working on. I'm sure Liam's going to let Leary rip it a little bit, let him go deep to Barryon Brown because we saw some of those go balls. I mean, he can let it fly. Should be a lot of fun out there on Final Four Saturday.
I think a couple questions like what is this going to look like? We still don't know the details, but I would assume it's going to be the same layout as the typical open practice they have every year, except they won't be in the stadium. Like last year they did it at the practice fields. It's going to be the same. They'll have places roped off, but you can go and stand on the side and watch pretty much is how I imagine that going.
Yeah.
And I would assume they'll have like a booth where you can buy gear.
Yeah,
right.
Maybe some hot dogs or some Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, so that is how I see that playing out for those asking. You're going to get to see probably right around a 2-hour practice.
Baker isn't
which half of it they'll probably go longer on the scrimmage, I would imagine.
I would too. But Baker isn't in this phase yet, but once he gets a little bit older and starts getting into like are you all into mushy food yet? Are you into like the peas and all that sort of stuff? Once he gets in hot dogs have been that's just I feel like that's something you kind of grow out of. Like I'm not except for when I'm at the ballpark. When am I going to get a hot dog? Got hot dogs back at the Roush house, and that's a great just change up. Easy, fast, throw a little mustard, relish, stadium mustard, or what kind of condiments are you throwing on your wiener?
I'm typically, I know this is like frowned upon, but it's just like ketchup. I don't hate like putting a little mayo on there. I know some people would hate that, but like ketchup and mayo is good.
Okay.
But I'm not like the hot for a brat. Yeah, I'll put spicy brown mustard on there.
Okay.
But I'm not
peppers and onions and stuff. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, but I'm not a yellow mustard fan. Never have been. I did not like it when I was younger. Tried it when I was older. Still didn't like it. It's just I don't have the palate for it. And so and then relish is
not for you. I'm a big pickles guy, and you know what too. I'm not gonna hate on you for putting ketchup on a hot dog. You know you like what you like, and you know, and every once in a while that's a nice change up. It's fun, especially if you get the campfire like over like that. That is the ideal roasting, ideal way to roast your dogs. But hot dogs, just we should eat them more often. America, why? Who needs to be that healthy when you can have a hot dog every once in a while?
Yeah, I'm getting thrown to the blender here in the chat, but I'm telling you, it's not that bad. It actually is good. So hate if you want.
Mayonnaise in general, like I remember the first time that I decided to put mayo on the burger, and I wondered why we didn't have it more often as a kid out there.
Yeah, I did Miracle Whip on the burger.
Yeah, it's good. It's great.
Yeah.
We also tried Duke's mayo recently. The
I
bowl
haven't
game
had
Brady
Duke's mayo
got to
yet.
me. Oh, it's good. It's good, and it's the kid's namesake. So we gotta try that out. Although my son, he is all about his number one condiment is thanks to Chick-fil-A. He's just a honey mustard guy. Like
Honey
no matter
mustard
what
is
it
good. I
is.
see. I love honey mustard. Just the regular yellow mustard. I don't have the palate for it.
Man, it makes me want to go to a baseball game, hang out at the KPP. Cats, they're rolling, top 25 team. Just a beer and a dog.
Yeah,
Simple.
that's the one thing hot dogs have, like at a ball game, right? Especially a baseball game. Like you feel like whenever you go to, whether it's Little League or Major League, you just have to get that. I guess they don't have a beer at a Little League game, but
depends on which.
so I'm sure there's some coolers around some of those parks. I'm sure.
Oh man. Back to spring ball. A few more things to touch on because obviously the pressing matter. The thing everybody wants to know is the offensive line good? Is the offensive line good? And it's going to be hard to tell when it's not live. They aren't tackling; they're just butting up. You can't hit the quarterback, but it does feel like we aren't just shuffling the deck trying to figure out what's going to work because Jagger Burton now working out at center, Kenneth Horsey left guard, Eli Cox right guard, Marcus Cox in at left tackle. Like it just feels like those guys are where they are supposed to be, and that's something that we didn't even know going into week 1 last year. And there's going to be some growing pains with Jagger there, but right now Fortner's in town. He has Drake teaching him, and he's like, I've also got some nice safety blankets next to me. So some of the advice he's had to pick up is slow down. And, and if I make a mistake, if I make the wrong call, well, all 5 guys are going to be doing the wrong thing. The back just might be cutting somewhere else. You know what I mean? The quarterback might just have to slide somewhere else to be able to get that open space in the pocket. So, so far, the snapping, it's not perfected, but he's like, he's getting there. And then the next step is really just making the calls. And, if he's making the wrong calls in week 1, he's got a guy next to him who made the calls all last year that nobody's looking for. A guy in Kenneth Horsey who's been there for 100 years, who knows what to look for. So all in all, it's not set in stone, but the way things are trending, they're moving in the right direction there on the big blue wall.
Yeah, my mild take is just it'll be improved, but like it's not going to be a strength of this team, the offensive line play. Like it's just not. So you just need to just be ready for that. You just need to be serviceable. My hot take is I think they finally have the personnel where they're going to be able to run outside zone. Like I look at Jagger at center, Horsey at left guard, Cox at left tackle.
Yeah, he moves
Those are
well.
all athletic guys for their position. Now you look at Eli Cox, Marcus Cox on left tackle, Eli Cox at right guard, Jeremy Flax right now at right tackle. Those are more kind of row graders. So I'm interested to see how that all shakes out. Now, I don't think it's a slam dunk that Flax is a starting right tackle when they open up the season. I mean, we could still get a portal guy, and if they get another guy that's like leans more athletic profile, I think you're definitely going to see that. I mean, that's what we saw. We saw a lot of. I mean, we saw him. He mixed it up in practice, but I think we could see that finally become, more than just once in a blue moon type concept that they use. We could see that become a thing where they're using it. I wouldn't say maybe all the time, but often this year, just because I think the personnel just better fits now what they have on their roster. But I could be wrong. You never know. But that would be a mild or one of my hot takes going into the year.
Oh, Cole Kublik had a hot take, which was Kentucky's answer at right tackle is playing defensive tackle and Deion Walker.
Yeah. Spoken like a true offensive lineman.
It really is.
Because then he told the story. He told the story about talking to Georgia's offensive line coach and wanting to have Darnell Washington play right tackle. Spoken like a true offensive lineman.
Yeah,
yes,
it really is. Which, I mean, Darnell Washington, though, yeah, he probably could make a lot of money playing left tackle too. Yeah, probably a lot of money.
Yeah, he's gonna be fine.
He's gonna be all right. He did have some. If you haven't listened to Cole's spring preview on Kentucky, it's pretty good because he knows the personnel like somebody who covers it locally, and he's able to explain some things. Like he's just a very good explainer, especially when it comes to how Cone create mismatches and use the personnel to his advantage with a guy like Isaiah Cummings to specifically scheme stuff up. And we saw some of it in practices where he's lined up outside, but he motions in and then motions back out. So it's difficult for the defense to kind of know how to use their personnel to combat it. I did like, though, it is fun just to have Liam out there because Liam's very involved. He's very vocal in practice where, like Rich stood back there with his play sheet, right? Cohen's out there and, he's mother effing himself because he told Leary to do something, but the play opened up and they had the deep shot, right? And, so he's fun out there. Him and Woody just bouncing around, jumping guys, but also doing the kind of disappointed father sometimes, like, come on, man, where it feels very relatable, very coachable. And all in all, that's if you have the opportunity, I know it's spring break, so there's going to be a lot of people out of town. But if you're staying in town or you're not doing anything right away, and Saturday morning should be a fun experience for Kentucky fans to get to watch this your new team in action.
Yeah, I enjoy it a lot, but I know it's like it at the end of the day, it is a practice, so there is some level of monotony to it. Mm-hmm. But you'll get to see football in April, so that is cool.
And the other thing too, if you've been to a lot of these practices, which we have, the routine did get broken up with more special teams than normal. So it's not just lip service when they talk about doing more special teams because Jay Boulware's there, but that's a thing.
Yeah. They have a true special teams coach, so.
Yeah,
where to express your frustration if someone misses a field goal.
Exactly.
There were some new drills that I've never seen before that they were running. Cohen is, like you said, he's just a little more hands-on than Scangarello. There was a period where they're kind of doing their, I don't know what, I think it's maybe called arc drill or their outside zone drill, where pretty much where they're running a track and the defensive guy has to react, and it's 2-on-1, one defender against two linemen. It's like a reach drill pretty much. Mm-hmm. And Cohen was over there for the entire drill. So obviously he wanted to see that. He wanted to get a firsthand look at that, see what was going on there, which kind of goes into my theory that we're probably going to see more outside zone this year. So yeah, he's just more hands-on. He's coaching the quarterbacks first and foremost, but he's also getting out there, coach, not afraid to talk to receivers and not afraid to get into the offensive line drills and say some stuff. So he's just more hands-on than Richard. Just different. They're different in a lot of ways.
Yeah, a lot of ways. And hopefully different in a good way in this instance now. I will say my stomach is telling me that it's almost our time to reach a conclusion. We got talking about hot dogs, and now I want to go throw some mayonnaise on one and see what it tastes like. Luckett, we got any locks for this weekend? My Final Four teams are alive, and if I might have to take off work if they all hit on Monday because it'll be a fiesta at the Roush house. But do you got any locks? I'm leaning kind of like the over in K-State and Michigan State, kind of like that one. That one feels a little tasty. You got any locks? Got any locks out there?
Well, you're playing a dangerous game with the overs with this basketball phenomenon.
Life's a dangerous game. You got to play dangerous to win it.
The rim's going to be tight again or not. San Diego State unders hit 11 or 12 games in a row. I've been riding that for a little bit. So Bama, San Diego State under. That's two teams that are defense heavy. I'm not sure what the number is. I think Princeton really matches up well with Creighton. Greg McDermott hasn't been the best tournament coach. I would imagine, Nick, Princeton's going to have a pretty good contingent of fans.
Yeah, yeah. Because if you're a Princeton alum, what other sporting event have you been saving up to go to? You know.
Well, it was different when Kentucky played Cornell because the game was in New York, right? So this is a little different. They're going to have to travel from Northeast. Most of their, good portion of their alums, I would guesstimate. So they're going to have to fly down to Louisville, but you could see them doing it. I mean, I think they're going to have a strong contingent of fans here, and I could see them winning and playing Alabama on Sunday for the spot in the Final Four.
Really
Xavier's
looking forward.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm really looking forward just to the Gonzaga UCLA game tonight because that has a very Final Four type feel to it in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, it feels like at least bare minimum an Elite Eight game. It's happening in the Sweet 16, and then like Xavier, I think Xavier matches up well with Texas. So they're I think like a 5 or 6 point dog. So you're getting a few possessions there. So those are I would say the three that caught my eye.
Playing with a little house money after the first weekend, I'm up. So, hell, I got some money to spend. And if I don't spend it, you know what? It's going into the Derby pot. So that'll be here before you know it. Spring football, though, a lot of fun. Pro Day, going to be exciting. We'll have plenty of coverage on Kentucky Sports Radio. We're also going to have some rapid reactions here on the YouTube page. And hopefully catch up with some of those former Cats like Benny Snell. Should be a ton of guys, a ton of familiar faces at the Nutter Fieldhouse. Coverage on the SEC Network starts at 11:30. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun mixing it up with the folks, rubbing elbows Friday morning over at the Nutter Fieldhouse.
Yeah, it really we'll get there at like 10. They start weighing in at 10:30. The events really start like 11:15-ish. And then they last for a while, a good while there. We'll probably expect that rapid reaction around 3 or so. But yeah, we'll be spending all day at Mark Stoops' tiny indoor facility that will get expanded soon.
Oh yeah. Well, and hopefully we'll see you at Monticello Bank next Wednesday. More details to come to that. Until then, visit NBCBank.com. Subscribe to the KSR YouTube channel if you haven't already. We appreciate you all joining us. And as always, go Cats and go Kroger.